Warhammer fans, Robin here, and today I'm going to be talking about the Illusory Might deck. Thank you very much to Games Workshop for sending me a copy of this to look at and review. So the Illusory Might deck is a set of universal cards, 32 universal cards, including power cards and objectives for Warhammer Underworlds. You can either mix it all in with your other universal cards, or you can play as a standalone deck in the Rivals format. We've seen one more of these before. We had the Silent Menace during the Chasm era. I feel like the Silent Menace, this kind of Rivals format in connection with Silent Menace, was perhaps a fortuitous coincidence than design. The deck doesn't play very well on its own, I don't think. It seems to be borne out by some of the championship, some of the tournament reports as well. But this Illusory Might seems to do a bit better. So let's have a little look at what we've got in the box. Okay, I'm going to start with this card because it's my favourite card. It's Shady Bargain. Give one upgrade to one friendly fighter without spending any glory points, then pick one opponent. That opponent may give one upgrade to one of their fighters without spending any glory points. I just love the imagery on this card. I think it's wonderful, and that's why I like it. So we probably come to expect from the Illusory Might deck, we're going to see lots of this new illusion mechanic. So the first thing I'm going to look at is to look at the cards that tap into that illusion mechanic, because those of us are thinking it, well, quite right. There are lots of illusion cards in here. Indeed, there are 7 upgrades, 5 ploys and 4 objectives that all tap into the illusion mechanic. So let's have a little look at those cards first. Okay, hopefully you can read those ones on the edge. So the 4 objectives, we've got Masters of Illusion. Score this immediately after a power step if each surviving friendly fighter has 1 or more illusion upgrades. Well, depending on what you're playing, that's either going to be quite easy or really hard. Easier later in the game. There's no limit to how many fighters have to be surviving. We've got Illusionary Titan. Score this immediately after a friendly fighter's attack action that takes the target out of action if that friendly fighter has 2 or more illusion upgrades. So, yeah, I guess if you're piling on, you've got 7 of them in this deck. If you've got 2 of them on the fighter that's killed somebody, you score this card. Illusionary Prominence. Score this at an end phase if each surviving friendly fighter has no upgrades and there are 1 or more illusion upgrades in your power discard pile. So, get a friendly fighter if each friendly fighter. So basically, if you're just using your illusions and they've all disappeared at the end of the round, and you manage to chuck some away, then you'll score this card. So I think it's a very reasonably easy to be scored. And then we've got Illusionary Nemesis. Score this immediately after a power step if 1 or more opponents played 1 or more illusion upgrades in the power step, or you play your 3rd or subsequent illusion upgrade in the same phase. Again, maybe scoreable. We've got 7 upgrades in this deck to play, so it's scoreable. It's not that easy though, and you have to rely on having them all together. You have to rely on having three in a turn to play it, to score this. And I think you probably can't really allow for your opponent to play 1 or more illusion upgrade unless you happen to be playing a Illusory Might mirror match. I have to say, I don't think that the illusion kind of mechanic is going to catch on in championship play. Not when the Essentials deck is knocking around. I just can't see people stepping up and playing that. So what have we got? We've got some Phantom cards. There's 4 of these as well. So again, hopefully I'll squeeze these on, and hopefully you can see them. Some of these are quite nice actually for a quick upgrade. I could maybe see some of these sticking around, especially in something like a Godsword Hunt deck. It's a real shame they don't inspire when playing an illusion upgrade. So we've got Phantom Shield. Do not spend any glory points when you play this card. Okay, I'm not going to read that out every time. So for an illusion card, they're free to play on your fighters, to upgrade your fighter with them. But every time you are dealt damage, or you're chosen by a gambit, or at the end of the round, the card gets broken and put in the discard pile. So this Phantom Shield gives the fighter's characteristic 2 shields. The Phantom Darts. Do not spend any. Okay, I'm going to keep reading that out. It's basically an attack action upgrade. The other 3 are all attack action upgrades. You've got a Phantom Dart, which is a Rage 3, 3 sword 1 damage attack, and you get +1 dice if the target is in a cover hex. So there's a bit of sort of give your fighter chance. People are hiding in the cover hexes. You've got Phantom Fists, which is another upgrade. It's a 3 hammer 2 damage attack, which is not to be sniffed at, and it gives you stagger. So it's a stagger token to the person you're fighting. If you remember, that means you get future rerolls when attacking them. And then Phantom Spear, another again is a 2 hammer 2 damage attack with range 2, so it's quite nice, and it has cleave. So that's quite a nice little spell. So that's 4 of the upgrades, and then the other 3 are, we've got the Illusory Form, where you put them on guard. You've got False Presence. It's an illusion. When this card is broken, if this fighter is on the battlefield, place this fighter with a starting hex in your territory. So that's quite an interesting one, that if they take some damage, they disappear at the end of the turn, they disappear back into your territory on a starting hex. It's like the old card, I can't remember what it's called, something that had an illusion in it where they could be moved, but it was at your discretion, whenever you wanted, so it was much better than this card, but I quite like that card. And then you've got the Blood Rack Mask, which is a reaction after an enemy's fighter's move action. If that enemy fighter is within 1 hex of this fighter, deal 1 damage to that fighter. So that's going to keep somebody away from you if you're using the Blood Rack Mask. So the ploys then, you've got Phantom Denial. So you play this when an opponent plays a gambit which chooses one or more friendly fighters. If one or more reaction, play this when an opponent plays a gambit which chooses one or more friendly fighters. If one or more of the chosen fighters are friendly fighters with one or more illusion upgrades, discard 1 power card. So you throw one of your power cards away. When you do, the fighters are not chosen, the gambit is discarded. So it's a way of protecting your illusions for a little bit. You've got Illusory Find. Reveal cards from the top of your power deck 1 by 1 until you reveal an illusion upgrade. Add that card to your hand, then return the reveal cards to your power deck and shuffle them. So it's a way of shifting from your power deck. We haven't seen that in Underworlds before, so that's really quite nice. If you did not reveal an illusion upgrade, return the reveal card to your power deck and shuffle your power deck. So yeah, there's no bonus of doing that. You have to shuffle up your deck at the end. Anyway, I guess you can have a little look what's in there. But I guess your opponent does too, because it's reveal. So your opponent gets to look in your hand too. But it could be pretty nifty if you wanted to get a particular illusion out. Phantom Advance, push each friendly fighter with 1 or more illusion upgrades up to 1 hex towards the nearest enemy fighter. Well, we know the strength of push in this game, and that's quite a nice card if you've got a few illusory upgrades out on your fighters. And then we've got Transfer of Power. Choose 2 friendly fighters who each have 1 or more illusion upgrades and no charge tokens. Place each chosen fighter in the hex that was occupied by the other fighter when you chose them. So there was an old card, the name of which escapes me, where you could swap them over. I think it was Confused Priorities, something like that. I think that was with on upgrades, on objectives. But there's a Siege card which is very similar. So that's a thematically interesting card. And I definitely could see circumstances where that would be really quite useful. It's one of those cards that often seemed really useful, but actually was seen more useful than it actually was and didn't get played very often. And then Phantom Retrieval, pick 1 or more illusion cards in your discard pile, then discard 2 power cards for each illusion upgrade you picked. When you do, return the illusion upgrades you picked to your hand. So I don't know how useful that is. There are circumstances where it definitely would be if you need to play 2 or 3 illusion cards to score that objective, or you want some fighters with them on to help score that objective. So, but you do have to throw some other ones away too. So it's an interesting choice anyway, that last card. Again, it's just this card is all about looking through your deck and, sort of it adds to that illusory feel of things aren't quite as permanent as they usually are. So the remaining cards, we've got 3 Surge cards to look at. We've got 3 Surge cards to look at. We've got Horrors in the Dark, which is score this immediately after activation if 2 or more friendly fighters recover hexes that are not in your territory. So you can get on the objectives, but they have to be cover hexes, or you can use the printed cover hexes, but they have to be cover hexes, or 2 or more friendly fighters hold objectives that are not in your territory. So some rewards for objective holding or cover hex holding. Force Apotheosis, score this immediately after a friendly fighter's attack action takes an enemy fighter with 3 or more upgrades out of action. That's 2 glory. Depends on what warband you play. That's not necessarily going to be easy with this deck, because you haven't got many pluses. But if somebody is going Voltron, then it gives you 2 glory for taking them out. And I can see that card being played in championship format maybe. Shock Troops, Surge Hybrid, score this immediately after an activation if 1 or more friendly fighters hold an objective in enemy territory that has a number equal to the number of that fighter's upgrades. Kind of like this card, it's a bit nuts. Or 1 or more friendly fighters each have 1 or more upgrades than there are surviving enemy fighters. So that is quite a tough one unless it's right at the end of the battle to score. But Shock Troops is an interesting card, and it could be quite good fun. Trickier in Harrow Deep, where you can't see what the objective numbers are. And then this card I love. So these cards, I love Trace the Ley Line. Score this in the end phase if there are X more friendly fighters within X hexes in an objective that is not held by an enemy fighter, where X is that objective's number. E.g. if there are 2 or more friendly fighters within 2 hexes of objective 2. I love the art, and I just think it's a really interesting card. And again, it's a bit of placement shenanigans, keeps some addictive play going, which I quite like. We've got Shadow Match. Score this at end phase if one or more friendly fighters hold an objective that has a number equal to or their wounds characteristic, or one or more friendly fighters each have a number of upgrades equal to their wounds characteristics. Again, you've got some, I guess if you're playing aggro, you've written upgrades on, and then objectives you are looking for probably with Horde Warband low, maybe objective 2 or objective 3 to score this. It's an interesting card. Out of Time. Score this at end phase if your warband holds a number of objectives equal to the round number, e.g. 2 objectives in the second end phase, or the number of friendly fighters in cover hexes equal to the round number. So that again is pretty nice. It doesn't rely on you being objectives. You can use the cover hexes, again alluding to that kind of illusionariness of the theme of the deck. So I like that one, and I like the artwork on that one too. I think the artwork on these cards is pretty great actually. 2 more. We've got Descending Tide. Score this in the third end phase if there are 2 or more surviving friendly fighters, and each of those fighters holds an objective in enemy territory. So again, more objective hunting. There is objectives, no cover hexes there possible, and that's a third end phase card as well. It's worth 3 glory. There are 2 or more surviving friendly fighters, and each of those friendly fighters holds an objective in enemy territory. That's not easy to score, that card. Lengthening Shadows. Score this at end phase if there are more friendly fighters in enemy territory than there are enemy fighters in enemy territory. It's really going to depend on what the matchup is. Some of these cards lend themselves to Horde Warbands, like this one, Lengthening Shadows, and others really don't. The one where they've all got to have an illusionary upgrade on them really don't lend themselves to Horde Warbands. It's quite an interesting balance, I think. I think you're looking at maybe 4 or 5, maybe the spoilers potentially be quite good. But it's an interesting thing you've got to consider when picking which warband to play with the Illusory Might deck. I've got a few more cards left now. I'm going to just quickly run through them. We've got Ephemeral Fortitude, which is this fighter has a wounds characteristic of 4 in rounds 1 and 2, and then 2 in round 3. It's kind of intriguing. Again, it's the kind of illusory, kind of shifting theme going on. I mean, it could be great. You've got to get it out early though, otherwise it's a bit of a dead card. You've got Denizen, which is a fascinating one. Sorry, Denizen. Shadow Mover, which is a Denizen card. I can't remember if we've seen that keyword or not before, but it's as you go up through the upgrades, you get better movement. I'm not sure it's actually that useful, but you get +1 move while you've got 1 upgrade, presumably this one would count. And then +2 move if you've got 2 to 4, and then +3 move if you've got 5 upgrades. Interesting card. Can't see it getting a lot of play outside of the Rivals format. Weapons Master, +1 damage to this fighter's range 1 and range 2 attacks, while this fighter has 3 or more upgrades. That is a pure buff for the Voltron meta. 4 ploys to go. Siphoned Vigor. Now, I actually had a small heart attack when I saw this card, and then I read it properly. Choose 1 friendly fighter, heal the chosen fighter according to the number of upgrades that fighter had when you played this card. And then it's 0 to 1 is heal 1, 2 to 4 is heal 2, and then 5 upgrades is heal 3. And I was like, oh my god, this is terrible for Voltron meta. I hate it. And then I actually read all of it properly. And then you should really do that, kids. You should really read the question fully before answering it. Then break each of the fighters' upgrades, chosen fighters' upgrades. So you basically have to destroy all of the upgrades to get those healing powers. I can see times when you might want to do that, but you have to be brave to do it. But I guess if your Moloch was nearly dead, then you probably would chance it. Cover of Darkness, pick 1. Gambits cannot deal damage. This effect persists until the end of the next power step. Or push 1 friendly fighter up to 2 hexes in a cover hex. Into a cover hex. That's pretty good, isn't it? So again, it's Cover of Darkness. Again, it's that illusory feel. So they can't deal damage. This effect persists until the end of the next power step, or push 1 friendly fighter up to 2 hexes into a cover hex. So push is always good. Pushing 2, very rare. And there are some some upgrades that lead into standing in a cover hex. So that's quite a nice card. Last 2, Deafening Clanger. Play this only if 1 or more friendly fighters each have 3 or more upgrades. Scatter 3 from one of these fighters' hexes. Stagger each enemy fighter in each hex in that chain. I feel like if you've got that many upgrades, you probably don't need to play this card. But it's kind of fun, and it's got Gurleg on the front, so you've got to love it for that. Dark Determination. I quite like this card too. Surviving friendly fighters other than your leader have the assassin keyword. You get +1 dice if they're targeting a leader after that. They persist till the end of the phase. Leader hunting in those circumstances. It's kind of fun. So that's Illusory Might. What do you think of it? I think it's quite interesting. It's not too overpowered, but it's not awful like the Silent Menace deck was. I really like the theme of it. I'm intrigued to play it. I can't decide who would be good to play. My first thought was, oh, I'd love to play it with the Gits, and they have got there's some objective and some cover hex shenanigans, and you could push people into them and, you know, swarm those areas where you need to have more fighters and get them on the hexes. Score some glory, that'd be great. But there are also ones where, you know, you have to have each fighter with an illusory upgrade on it, and you know, that will be hard to do. You've got 7 illusion upgrades, so they're going to be quite fleeting in the game. So in some ways, something like the Godsword Hunt feels like a quite good, because they tend to, I know they won't inspire, but they tend to be they tend to be one shot anyway. That said, the illusion upgrades I don't think are as good at actually getting them inspired, so perhaps that isn't a great job for them. Perhaps Despoilers are good. Despoilers are kind of like the Godsworn Hunt, but they do have the actual ritual mechanic to help them out too, so maybe they'd be a good choice. I kind of like to see Dread Pageant do it. They've got some shenanigans. But then I'd also like to see somewhere like Xandar's Truth Seekers. I think they'd be quite good, because they can be quite hard to get going. I feel like they're hard to get going in scoring glory. Maybe with the illusory upgrades on that might help them. I don't know, but they won't be able to do good ball control. So I think you're probably looking at fighters of 4 or 5 numbers to do well with this deck. But that's it. It's really quick because I've got to go pick up my kids from school. And let me know what you think of the Illusionary Might deck. Are you going to take it in this tournament that's coming up at GW? I know that's got some funny deck building rules. Another one up at Warhammer Worlds soon. But I'm kind of intrigued by this deck. I'm looking forward to playing it. I think I'm going to try it with the Soul Raid. I think when we asked our patrons who they wanted to see us play with, I think we're going to try it with the Soul Raid. I think Soul Raid could be quite good. They've got the numbers. They've also got some fishy shenanigans. There's definite possibilities there for them. So anyway, that is my very quick run through of the deck. Sorry it's a bit rushed, but these things always take longer than I expect them to. Well, I will hopefully see you soon somewhere in the Harrow Deep or somewhere with Agents of Sigmar. See you soon.